welcome back to the Over Manga Cast. My name is Sam, and welcome to another No Read November. Woo!
Yeah.
Our favorite event.
An entire month where we watch live-action anime movies. We're all excited, right, crew?
Yeah. I mean, I would.
Somehow we've got a third year out of this. A fourth year out of this.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. We're running out of movies.
Says you. Every time I go down that rabbit hole of looking at what we're going to watch, I find so much material, and I'm so excited.
Well,
we found something this year.
Horrors to look forward to in the future. Normally at the top of the show, we talk about our familiarity with the thing that we watched this week, but it's Golden Kamuy, which we're all pretty familiar with, and we
were all very excited for because, as you know, this podcast loves Golden Kamuy, so clearly the live-action anime movie version of it would be great.
Yeah.
Surely.
Yeah. It was, honestly, I'm just glad that we didn't have another Full Metal Alchemist. I don't think I'd have the energy for it.
This is a step up from all three Full Metal Alchemist movies.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, my co-hosts obviously feel differently, but my overall take of Golden Kamuy is there were points that, could have been explained a little bit better. There could have been a more cohesive plot put forward. But everything that I saw, at least in live action, would have encouraged me to check out the original source material. Very bright, very colorful, interesting characters. I wanted to know more about the lore.
Yeah,
I had more questions, but the way that it was, directed, the way that the plot lines really drew me in, and it left me wanting to seek this out. Which I can't say the same of Full Metal Alchemist. Because if I saw that, I'd be like, this shit is
never
garbage.
It again. Yeah, I think that one thing is, it did a really good job of translating, for the most part, the vibe. It did a good job of translating the characters, I think, quite well. The only thing is they attempted to do the manga panel faces, which were...
It was a solid
There
attempt.
was at least one of them that was pretty good, and the rest of them were... You tried.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, the characters are very well translated, and it was very faithful to the original plot, which I think was ultimately to its detriment.
Because I know you're probably thinking, hey, Over Manga Cast, you normally go beat by beat to go through the plot of what you just watched.
Watch our first episode of Golden Kamuy.
I was about to say, we've got a surprise for you. This movie didn't have a plot.
Yeah, It started off with the 203-meter hill battle, so we got to see Sugimoto going crazy.
Really dope fight scene with Sugimoto.
Yeah. It was a strong opening.
Yeah, it was one of those ones where it's like, we were joking, it's like, well, the production quality on this fight scene is going to go one of two ways, and fortunately it went in the good, entertaining way. They went all out for this first scene, which is usually how it goes.
Mm-hmm. And then from there, it sort of just meanders into the plot of Golden Kamuy. It has Sugimoto panning for gold. It's got the old drunk.
The old drunk mentioning something about asses, so it was is proper Golden Kamuy.
Yes, because we can't go 5 minutes in Golden Kamuy without mentioning butts, assholes, or poop.
Yeah, a lot of poop.
And a bear must die on every page, which is kind of the problem. This is literally a montage of scenes from the manga put to live action is really the biggest sin this movie commits.
Yeah, it's seriously lacking in a cohesive thread.
Yeah, there's a level of I largely agree with Jay on the idea that this would make me want to see more, but I think the one problem is something that Matt mentioned whilst we were watching, is if we hadn't read the manga, I feel like we all would have been very confused about what was going on.
Yeah, so actually along those lines, there's actually one scene I want to say that I could actually speak on authoritatively. Like, honestly, this should have come, if not at the very beginning, soon after that initial exchange with the drunk. Is definitely, the fact that he fought in the Russo-Japanese War, and that he had made a promise with his friend. Like, that should have
the
been
motivation
the
for Sugimoto, because
The entire point of Sugimoto's character.
There is no character arc in this movie.
that's actually just what I was about to say.
Yeah.
The problem with just doing Golden Kamuy scenes, and like they were well done, but the problem with it is this is a movie, and a movie is shaped differently than a manga. The way it conveys information to an audience is different, and there is no, because a movie is smaller, it's more contained, and it requires greater focus in terms of storytelling.
Yeah.
There was not a cohesive, because like there's actually a really good scene at the end of the movie. We're skipping around a lot, but
So does the plot.
There's no plot, so it doesn't matter.
There's a really good scene, very well acted scene at the end of the movie where Asurpa is telling Sugimoto, like, like this is what, your purpose is and everything, and it's like it's a bookending moment of like they put a quote at the beginning of the movie, but like the movie wasn't about that, so it doesn't work as a good capstone for the experience we just had. And like the thing is, it's well acted, it's a good scene, but like it almost works better as a clip than the scene in the movie where it's actually plays.
And it also doesn't jive great with the action climax, because the action climax is acting as if the big lesson is that Sugimoto and Asurpa need to work together, and like, sure, that's the thing, but they've been working together the entire time, and Sugimoto having his crisis of faith of like, oh, I can't risk the life of this.
I can't drag Asurpa into this hellscape.
Mhm.
That gets speed run.
Yeah.
And this is very much a really good example of, this is a lot of good pieces, and we're going to get to some more fun bits in association with that, but this is a lot of good pieces, but it needed to be rearranged into a unique shape to fit a movie, and they didn't do that.
This movie strikes me as if like manga Twitter wrote a movie and was like, it better have this scene and it has to have this scene, and then forget that you should make a movie have like a story.
Be a movie.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Pretty good analogy there. But if you want to know the totality of the plot beats it covers, it's Sugimoto learning about the gold, up to Sugimoto with the help of Asurpa and Shiraishi escape from the 7th Division with the big dramatic horse race. So everything that happens in between those two moments is what happens in the movie.
Except basically anything with Ratar.
Yeah.
Ratar is very much there, and he's a good pupper, and that's about it.
I'm pretty sure they reuse the animation of him attacking
one of his
twice.
bounces, yeah. I guess that's a good point to dovetail into. This movie made some
effects.
weird decisions.
But I feel like that was an executive decision, because as we read in the manga, the whole background of Ratar is also his cultural and spiritual significance
To
the
the
Ainu
people.
culture, which they kind of glossed
They touch
over.
on, because I mean, like the ultimate problem is they, and this is actually something I noticed when there was the whole Ratar thing in the context of the movie as we were watching it. It felt like it was truncated or abridged, but I'm thinking back on it, it's like, no, that's all the information we got from the manga. But the reason is
It's
they
put in
just-
about 2 minutes.
they direct adapted the scene from the manga like right into the movie without like changing its length, giving any more or less detail. It's basically a whole chapter in the manga, so it feels like something substantial, but when it's a single 2-minute conversation in the movie, it feels like you're leaving stuff out even if you aren't.
And also, at this point in the movie, Ratar had been the CGI animal companion that ends fights therein. Is literally his only
that's
appearance.
the only contribution he's had so far.
He shows up to fight the other CGI animals.
Yeah, and I guess now's a good time to break into Golden Kamuy has a problem with CGI. Because
I haven't been able to see a live action that has adequately.
It's not a unique problem to
Yeah.
Golden Kamuy.
So was it an issue with this adaptation, or is it just they did the best with what they had?
they clearly, there's some good CGI. Like, Ratar looks great. I'm pretty sure it's a puppet in some stages.
There are some
Yeah.
shots where they use a physical prop, and I think some of the shots are a physical prop that gets enhanced by CG, and they look really good. I don't know, since we did our last regular manga episode, I watched the anime, but I've actually watched the first episode and a half of Golden Kamuy, the anime, and it's one of those ones where it's like, I actually kind of like this. It's a pity the bear looks terrible because it really brought the manga to life. There's another case of that where it's like the bear will occasionally look good, but then there are other places where it just doesn't look like it belongs in the space.
And then the CGI bear literally will go from, like, PS2 graphics when it's in the background, and for some reason they think you can't notice the difference before it then suddenly upreses when it comes onto the, like, main screen.
Yeah, one of the big problems this movie had with its visual effects is they did try, for the most part, to, hide the spots where it looks a little jank. Here's where the CG doesn't really blend very well. Here's where a prop wouldn't be great. And then they do a lot of that mixing well in some spots. And then there's other where it's like,
they deliberately emphasize either bad props or bad CG, which it's like...
The first bear scene with Sugimoto is a big offender of this, because it's like when he finds the corpse of the drunk and is like bringing him through the woods, the bear comes out and Sugimoto tries to run away, but you're seeing this like actual human carrying a mannequin on his back, and it looks really slow because it is really slow. And then you have to contend with that, with the bear just sort of slow lumbering after him.
Yeah.
Climbing over every fallen log it can find so
Like
it can
it's
be
not
slow enough not to actually catch Sugimoto. And it's this case where they draw attention. Sometimes they hide their flubs well, and then there are other cases where they draw attention to things that just don't look good, which makes you notice things you're not supposed to.
Like, every time they have a dead bear on screen, for some reason they use this prop that looks like a human in a bear suit. That's just what they're carving up, I guess.
It kind of looked like they took a bearskin rug and put like waterbed gel in it.
I was gonna say it looked like they killed a mascot for a baseball team.
I mean, that is a possibility. It served a purpose. I think what was particularly egregious was, if you've read the source material, if you listen to our previous episodes on this is very much Ainu culture, culinary heavy, and that's where it kind of fell apart. Like, if this was, I suppose, not so involved with, killing the animal, cooking the animal, using the various parts of the animal, like interacting, dare I say, with the corpse as much as it was, I would have been okay with whatever prop they chose.
Which is a shame, because one of the better scenes in the movie is the little cooking segment.
Yeah.
It's like a little cooking segment. Like, it's great.
Set the tap.
They had two scenes where it was like those Ainu culture asides.
Yeah.
They were both really well done, and they only had the two, and it's like, given what they covered, they cut out a bunch, but it's like, focus on ones like those that you can do well for the movie. That's the right way of getting the vibe of Golden Kamuy and still cutting down a manga-length thing for time.
I just remembered how bad the dead squirrels looked, though.
Yeah.
They looked like a bunch of stuffed animals.
They look like...
I feel like they could have found, taxidermied squirrels or something.
For cheap.
They look like squirrel props out of Party City that you hang up for Halloween.
Yeah. Which actually is about the same quality the bear has when it's...
There's just little things that sort of break the immersion. Like, everybody's costumes are very clean, even though they've been wandering in the mountain. Like, obviously, you still want them to have some
new.
You want them to still have some color to them, but they don't look worn.
But that is the same problem you have with every manga adaptation, where if you actually make what their clothes are look real, it looks terrible when a real person's wearing it. It looks like cosplay. Because it is.
The one that I thought was pretty good was Shiraishi in his purple coat. That one actually worked pretty well. But
Shiraishi killed it.
But particularly Sugimoto doesn't look like that's the outfit he wore in the war. I think what Sam mentioned, the idea of it being immersion breaking, I think that's kind of the big problem there. Because honestly, it was an enjoyable movie on the whole. But there are these points where you just have to stop and be like, that's a choice that was made. I'm watching a movie right now, and the director or the editor made a choice, and I'm not sure about it.
Yeah.
So, do we want to talk about our favorite one of those with the river?
Oh, So
we watched this scene like 3 times.
we had to rewind to make sure we saw what this was, because
The physics did not make sense.
this is the scene where Shiraisi and Sugimoto get in a fight and they go tumbling off and
Did
they
they
fall.
get in a fight?
Yeah,
or-
in the manga they
Yeah,
get in
it's
a
like a
fight,
chase.
and then they
They
go
get
tumbling.
involved in a fight.
They get tumbling off. They fall in the water, and then they're gonna freeze to death unless they make a fire,
Which is all fine.
which is fine. That's how.
The staging of this, the
It's
staging
fine.
was awful.
What we're going to talk about directly is the way they decide to display the stunt of them falling into the water. Because clearly, they didn't want to put their actors...
In an actual freezing river.
Well, they do go in the actual freezing river, so they just don't want them to fall into it for some reason. Probably because it's not deep enough.
It doesn't,
I guess.
yeah. Honestly, the river didn't look deep. Well, actually, no, it couldn't have been deep enough because they were standing in it.
Yeah.
So... I guess the stunt couldn't have. It's one of those ones where you kind of can't do it as a stunt.
Like, I understand that. The way they chose to show it was bad.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
Because you see it from like above, like a top-down view. You watch the two of them go, splooshin'.
Well, at first they're tumbling
Down a hill.
Honestly, the chase scene was hilarious in ways I think might have maybe been intentional.
Yeah.
Because Golden Kamuy is kind of a dark comedy in some ways.
The moment where Shiraishi loses his footing, falls down the hill, and catches Sugimoto, and there's the solo of him going.
But they're going down like about a 45-degree hill. They're sliding down it, and then it cuts to a top-down view of the river, and PNGs of them fall from directly above where they couldn't have possibly been.
There's no cliff that gets them to fall this, straight line into the water. And then the splash...
It couldn't have even been off screen because there was snow on the ground.
And, the splash they create looks terrible.
I mean, I don't know if that was edited, but it did
had
kind
to
of...
have been.
Yeah.
Because there was no ripples in the actual water.
It's confusing because...
You could have thrown rocks in there.
You could have thrown mannequins. We know you have them.
But it literally looks like, at least my interpretation, it kind of looked like they were cannonballing or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just
because the splash of the water coming up, that was it looked like them cannonballing, and then the entire rest of the water was flat calm, they just in
make it messy, make it look like they actually fell into the water.
Throw rocks, for goodness sake.
It looked like they filmed them jumping into a pool, and then edited that over the frozen lake.
But the splash still didn't make sense.
It didn't.
But, I'm talking about the fact that the splash looked like they were cannonballing or, were professional divers.
The splash was simultaneously too big and too small somehow because of the angle at which... Because, we see other angles of this river. They're in other shots.
You see other sides. You see other angles of the river. You see both banks. No cliff.
And when they go into the river, they're tiny. They look too small. Yeah. And then the splash is what you would expect a person falling in that river to be, but there's no ripples. And then it cuts to them into the river where none of the physics makes sense.
Yeah. That's the most egregious example of the...
It is.
It was very funny, and we laughed mightily at it.
The kind of counterpoint of that, though, one scene I thought was really good was the fight scene they have when Sugimoto goes into the bear den. The way they decided to film this, I thought, was actually good.
Oh, yeah.
Because Sugimoto jumps into the bear den, and then we just get a solo camera point of view facing out of the bear den and watches the events of that fight where, the bear comes over, rips a guy's face off.
That was really well done.
Has this guy go, literally narrating himself, my grandpa always told me if you see a bear, just stay still, and then the bear just kills him.
Oh, the bear tackles him, drags him off screen, there's splatters and
because your dad just freaking lied to you. You don't do that with black bear, you don't do that with brown bear.
You don't do that with any kind of bear. You don't do that with some bears. And because that's the bit in the manga. That's actually directly from the manga, and it's the way it was translated made it really good for screen.
Yeah.
And one thing that Matt vocalized, I don't think that they're going to rip the guy's face off. They're going to cut around it. I didn't say anything, but I was with him. There's no way they're doing that. They just did it.
They don't show you the bloody torn hole.
They show you from the point of view of the hole, so it's actually further. It's not like a full page like it is in the manga.
Yeah.
But you get to see it from the angle, and his face is just like falling
Hanging off the side of his head.
Yeah.
It is
Very,
brutal.
it was
It's
very
really good.
impressive. It had the like dark comedy elements. It was the most the 2 points that the movie felt the most Golden Kamuy, and it never didn't feel Golden Kamuy, but like the two particular highlights were the sit-to-tap squirrel stew thing, and then that scene with the bear down.
Yeah, and we're like, oh man, this is a really good scene. This movie's really turning up. And then he finds a CGI baby bear that looks identical to the panda from Full Metal Alchemist 3.
Okay, I think it was slightly better quality. The panda literally looked like something you took off.
I mean, it would have to be.
2000.
It would have to be at least slightly better quality.
Until he goes to like pet the thing.
And his hand phases through its ear.
It's such a cute little forest puppy that has the worst CG in the entire movie, and it was both hilarious and adorable.
Also, they spend an awful long time on that bear.
For it to not come up
For it
again.
to not come up again.
Yeah, they briefly mention that
They're
They're
gonna
gonna
raise
raise
it.
it in the village.
they don't mention that they raise it for food, which seems interesting, but
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you see, it's safe to raise it because obviously, if you have a bear that has eaten human flesh, as we learn in the manga, it is cursed. Well, if you raise it, you know it hasn't eaten human flesh.
yeah,
They do mention the whole like Gwen Kamuy stuff
Yeah.
in the movie.
I mean, kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
They really like
It's
it's a
mentioned.
very
Yeah.
light touch.
Yeah.
So again, this is part of what contributes to me. It piques your curiosity to know more.
Yeah.
This definitely focused more on the gold hunt battle between the 7th Division and the Shogunate successors than it did on the Ainu cultural exploration.
Which is giving it a lot of credit, because I would say this movie really didn't focus on anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It dipped its feet into all of the pools that make up Golden Kamuy, and honestly, because it's a movie, because it's a 2-hour movie, I really do feel like it probably should have been a Sugimoto character journey. Because
Yeah.
it's like, quite frankly, I don't mind them ending on a cliffhanger. I don't mind them ending where they do where it's like, hey, here's all. We'll get to the ending in a bit, but I don't mind. Like they're not going to tell all the story of Golden Kamuy in one movie unless they just radically and totally alter it from the ground up. So, like, make it Sugimoto's character journey. Like, have the story focus on bonding with a Serpa and then leaving her behind because he doesn't understand she has abandonment issues, so that the thing at the end can be more impactful, as opposed to all of the little things. Quite frankly, this is going to hurt my soul. They should have cut out the katana dude. He did not contribute anything to this movie.
Yes, that if they cut out the katana dude and had upped
Hijikata, yeah.
Hijikata, and like they'd upped, Sugimoto's initial like motivation. You were like best friends with the guy who died in the war, and you made him a solid that you would take care of his wife who was ailing. That's why you needed money. That's why you needed gold.
They squeezed that
found
into
out
the
about
very
this-
end.
Squeeze that in at the last minute.
Sugimoto's backstory is given to you at the end of the movie as like it's a prize for watching it the whole way through, and I'm just sitting there
I
going
would like to have known that.
I'm just sitting here
Like,
going,
why go out on this journey as a war vet?
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here going like, oh good, this backstory started. This movie's already 2 hours long. I guess the remaining 8 minutes are going to be a backstory that doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
I think the only reason we were more patient about, like, I have to, now that I'm looking at this in a clearer light, I have to say, not knowing his motivation for going out on this quest would really bother me.
Would have been more
Because-
frustrating.
If you didn't know.
Yeah.
They should have put it at the beginning. There's no reason not to put it at the beginning. You're not pissing anyone off by not waiting until the manga reveals it to you.
Like, why did he feel so adamantly about pursuing this one drunk guy that you just find in the middle of the woods who tells you about, this story? Oh, yeah, I'm going to take this 100%, like, I'm going to stake my life on, doing this.
Yeah, like the
For
instant,
why?
it's like, without the motivation, the immediate thought of an audience member who has not actually read the manga and doesn't know the motivation and backstory is like, the instant he goes up against any kind of serious resistance, he should just leave. Obviously, we know the backstory, so we can't, speak definitively to what someone's reaction would be, but I feel like it would be more of a reaction of like, why does he care so much? Like, not out of curiosity, but out of like annoyance of like, I like an explanation, please.
Yeah, like the movie does nothing to sell you on why anyone does anything.
Yeah.
Which actually, speaking of your talk, like they should have cut the samurai guy. They should have cut Ushiyama.
Yeah.
Like, he's in there.
He's awesome. I love him, and he looks absolutely amazing. He contributes nothing.
And like the entire thing was when we watched the trailer, we noticed they have the scene where they throw the woman like a throwing star.
Yes.
Watching-
Which we had to pause several times when reading this. Like, did he actually throw that? Yes.
Yeah, and watching the movie, we had to be like, oh, that's a pretty good scene. But like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't matter that Ushiyama's there, really.
I don't think Higashikata even ever interacts with Sugimoto at all,
No,
or
not yet.
Asurfa.
No, we're supposed to care about these other characters for some. We all know they're important.
Sada.
We know they're important. They were all involved in the same confrontation. They are all war veterans trying to figure out what's next,
But, like-
what comes after this.
But like the movie wasn't about that.
But like classic filmmaking, like you've got all of these scenes dedicated to shit that doesn't matter. Like it shouldn't be in this movie. If their plot's important in Golden Kamuy, I understand that. That doesn't belong in this movie. Put it as a flashback in the next movie. Like it.
If anything, it feels like an extended trailer where I feel like there's a bunch of snippets of high action scenes, but there was very little to really tie together. This was a very good ad. It was a 2-hour-long ad.
It was a 2-hour-long ad for the manga, which is not the best.
Basically.
Yeah.
Which I mean, that's a pretty good segue into the ending of the movie, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god, the ending.
my god.
Which one? Which ending do you refer?
Let's do the action ending where they've got the big set piece scene, because this is when he goes to go get the skins on his own, and the Serpa has to use Ratar to sniff out his socks, and they include that bit, but it doesn't matter, so it's like...
They get oily Shiraishi.
We do get a really Shrek.
Oh my god, they choose to have his head squeezed through the bars with
Because
CGI.
that's what it does in the manga.
But like, it looks
It
terrible.
looks so bad.
So, fortunately, they didn't do that for the whole thing. They just did it for
Then
the
we just-
head
but
to
we
kind of
ju-
give the illusion of, okay, this guy is squeezing through.
They did too much.
They did too much. They did too much all the same.
Honestly, not gonna lie, if they had, I mean, all they really had to have done was reconfigure the bars to justify his head getting through. Because the funny part, the part that you remember is him sliding on the floor. Hello, Sugimoto. Like, that's the part that is so memorable and fun from that. And they did that, and that looked good.
Yeah.
But he has the entire breakout. He's
He kills one of the twins. He uses his guts to make it seem like he needs to go to the hospital.
They set up the I don't even think the guards in the manga were twins. I don't think they had characters. I think they were just jerks.
No, they were supposed to be twins.
Were they twins?
Well, their names
Yeah.
were twinny.
Yeah.
But they were more emphasized because the big action climax is a knife fight with one of the twins.
Yeah.
And the action choreography on the sled is pretty good. It's a not bad action scene. The thing that killed it for me was they kept cutting to wide shots of the horse running through the streets
To try to make it look fast.
To
even
try
though
to make
it's
it
going
look fast.
15 miles an hour.
The horse is trotting at a very safe speed, towing a sled that is a third of the size of the sled when it's in CGI.
Yep. And the backgrounds are going by so slowly. You need to be seeing the buildings whipping by in a blur as the blades clash and fists fly and bullets roar in.
There are editing choices that could have been made to create the illusion of this being faster than it was. The other thing that
And then we got my favorite part, because we need to have a car crash, but we haven't introduced the guy with the prototype Model T yet. So Sugimoto and Asurpa get on the horse and cut the sled free, so that the sled careens into a snowbank and
explodes.
The snow puffs up like an explosion.
Yeah, the thing with the fight on the sled, and this goes not just for the big climactic thing with the twin, but just for basically all of the choreography. there are points where the choreography in this movie will like shoot up to a 10. Most of the time it's like either at a 6 or a 7, like it'll hover between those two. And then there will be occasions where I don't want to give it a number because I'm not sure if they're trying to be funny or not, where something stupid will just happen. But then again, that's the way that Golden Kamuy is, so that very well might have been on purpose. Mm-hmm. We had another one where, honestly, this is another one where it's, to a degree, it's frustrating because this is a really direct translation, and honestly, a lot of it works really well. Forehead plate guy. We basically get all of his scenes directly transcribed, and it looks pretty darn good.
Lieutenant Tsurumi was pretty fun. His brain fluids leaking out was sufficiently disgusting. There was one point where it got in his mustache. I was just like, ugh. He was like looking at it. And,
yeah, as he does.
But, so that was the big action climax. We had the emotional climax of Sugimoto and Asirpa promising to work together no matter what. And Sugimoto explains his backstory. And then credits roll. And then we get...
mid-credit roll.
The story is not over yet! Look at all of these cool characters you recognize from the manga! We know who our audience is!
2-hour ad.
I was about to say,
me.
We're not very far in the manga, but like literally they had cast characters that just appeared in our reading.
Yeah. They got all the way up to the Norman Bates American Hotel.
Yeah, they got at least that far. And like the thing is, and this is actually sort of a funny thing, what they chose to adapt was basically our first episode on Golden Kamuy. That kind of fits. We're on like episode 3 or 4 of Golden Kamuy, and they're showing characters from our most recent episode. Like,
how fast?
That's like movie 4.
Yep.
Calm down.
Yep. And so they have that clip show, and then some more credits, and then our final credit roll where they finally get a Asirpa to eat miso.
No, that wasn't the final one, because then we had another one.
Oh, yeah, that was the one after the gold credits, and then it went to the, like, just regular black credits, and we're like, oh, so the movie must be over, because these are, like, the ending credits, not the, like, decorated ending credits.
Yeah.
And we just had the movie on as we were just, like, talking about it. And then we noticed there was a scene at the end, and we were like, what could this possibly be? And it's Asirpa and Sugimoto just walking away, and then he turns away and stares at her in her eyes, and it's a very, like, romantically charged scene, and we're like, this is kind of weird. But then we realized...
it's worth noting, I don't know if they did it intentionally, but Asirpa feels aged up.
She's played by an adult actress, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, but, like...
Yeah, which is why sometimes in the dialogue where they do reference the fact that, you know, she's really young, she's a child, she's, like...
13,
14, something like
somewhere
that.
around there.
And they're just like, what are you doing hanging around with this IU child? And I'm just like...
That's
just a short woman.
That is simply a short adult woman.
Yeah. But the last scene is literally like a romantically charged them looking into each other's eyes. But it's actually just so you know that Asirpa has deep blue eyes, so that when they cut to Noporobo in his jail cell and he looks out at the moon, he can go, Sir, Pa, with his bright blue eyes.
Yeah, in the manga they allude
like,
to, he had a very, like, unique, like, they don't expressly say, like, blue.
But they said it was a very striking eye color.
Yeah, or something like that.
And it's like, oh, so they're throwing this garbage in. Also, I think we skipped over, there was another after the credits scene where Samurai Guy goes, by the way, it wasn't... It wasn't $10 million. It was $1 billion worth of gold.
We told you chump changes. You were already really willing to kill each other over it.
And I'm just like, that doesn't matter for this movie.
Yeah, that was the thing that started.
The 20,000 con worth of gold, like, raising the stakes, that was in our most recent reading. A lot of people have died for that amount of money.
Because the whole reason why that happens is because of, and I don't know if this is like a retcon by the writer or if this is something that was always planned to be a thing, but like a bunch of people are aiming to build a nation with this money, so you need to raise the dollar value from something like historically feasible to something absurd, so it makes sense why these people are doing it. But the nation-building stuff doesn't matter to this movie. It is merely mentioned in passing. It's not actually focused on in any meaningful way. Because it shouldn't, because it's a movie.
And also, you're then planning to have a sequel come out where all this lore information was given in after the credit scenes, and it's like, who is this for? What?
Yep.
Yeah, well, I think it's worth noting that scene is what leads into the montage of we have all these characters already cast, so it's like that's
It's for nerds. Is what it's
Yeah.
for.
here are all the characters you recognize from the manga, which they look good. Honestly, I watched the sequel. I don't have super high hopes for it, but
Yeah, I wouldn't be like chomping at the bit day one in the theater for the sequel,
Same.
but like I give it a shot. I give it a shot just to enjoy, because like the acting was fine enough. The effects weren't comedically terrible, and they weren't like lose interest terrible.
they weren't lose interest terrible. There were many cases where they were comedically terrible, unintentional as it may have been, but it was funny.
I guess, yeah, my takeaway from this movie is, I don't know if I'd watch a sequel to this, I'm going to be completely honest, but
Yeah.
we don't generally have a choice in these matters. Like,
Except for the Attack on Titan one, we're not doing that.
that was functionally a bad movie. But like, that's the thing about this movie. It wasn't a bad movie.
It was a great ad.
It was an ad.
Yeah.
It wasn't a movie. It's like, I feel bad putting this on the scale of movies because it wasn't one. It didn't tell a story.
Yep.
Like it.
I didn't hate the time I spent on it. I'm not demanding my time back. I'm never gonna watch it again. I know that because it's like it's not
definitely.
worth
Not worth
it's
a
not
rewatch.
like in all honesty, and like this, I don't know if like this is the biggest like damning point or if this is just fine or whatever. But not for nothing, the movie would be better watched in clips because it's a set of clips strung together.
Well, they're just making movies for the TikTok generation now.
That'll do it.
I don't know. It's just kind of like, I feel like this type, if this was trying to be a movie in the most honest sense, they should have gone back to drawing board of like beginning, middle, and end.
They should have told a story.
They should have told a story.
I guess should have been Sugimoto.
They didn't
not
answer the
trust-
question, why do I care about this?
Yeah.
And it should have been Sugimoto, have his war backstory, then have him going home, finding out the whole thing with his, like, friend's wife. Like, have the big emotional scene of his friend dying to protect him. Have that front-loaded so you give a shit about this character you're meeting.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then have him be like, I need to make money so I can get her eyes fixed. Oh, look, here is an easy source of money. Oh, look, here's an Ainu girl who can help me get this. I'm going to use her. Oh, I feel bad about using her. She's just a child. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, she's just like, no, I want to help you.
And also have abandoned, because I mean, like, again, Higashikata is my favorite freaking character, and they did kind of do the, you know, boys just love playing with swords scene, but it wasn't as cool because he didn't have the Winchester at the like, he didn't do the Winchester flip like he was supposed. Like, that feels like one of those ones where it's like, if you're playing that hard to the manga pennant nerds, I feel like you should have done a little bit more effort in that. But regardless, if you cut out the extraneous characters and just have it be about Sugimoto, you can spend more time developing the relation. Because it's like, I don't feel like it's unmotivated that Sugimoto would care about Asurpa, and I don't feel it's unmotivated that Asurpa would feel abandoned when Sugimoto leaves. But at least part of the impact comes from, like, my meta-knowledge, both from the sense of how movies work and also from having read Golden Kamuy.
So, here's the real question. Do you think the movie would have been better if they just cut Ratar?
I feel like he didn't provide a service.
I feel like it would have saved on budget.
It would have saved on budget. Yeah, no,
it's
that's
not,
another one
it's
where...
not just budget.
You can't cut both of my favorite characters.
But it didn't.
Stop.
But without the added context of the cultural significance of
Of
Ratar,
Ratar, he's useless.
He-
I
Yeah.
he
know.
is just
And
a random wolf who comes out occasionally to help them
and it would've
because
made-
for some reason.
And like, first movie is Sugimoto's movie, second movie is a Asurpa's movie. More time to focus on Ratar, and you've got...
But then you haven't had Ratar in the first movie, so that's kind of weird.
You could still, like, set him up. You could have it be like, like, have him be in the big dramatic final fight against the bear or something. And so it's like, oh, hey, what was that wolf that showed up? Oh, he's part of my dramatic backstory.
That was the other problem, was as we were watching this, I was kind of theory crafting, I wonder where they're going to end this movie, because I couldn't think of, like, a nice arc in the beginning of Golden Kamuy that would fit into, like, a 90-minute frame. Like, I'm like, there's really not a great place to truncate a chunk of story to have like a nice little segmented piece.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this is the very common element of, if you're going to turn something that's not a movie into a movie, you need to rewrite it to be in the shape of a movie. A very common refrain that we've had of the way that information is conveyed is different between different types of media, and Golden Kamuy just had more time to slow drip information. You know, because I mean, like, not for nothing, there's a lot of elements of, like, things like about why Ratar is important was drip fed through the fact that we had multiple, like, Ainu cooking sessions. That gave more space for Ratar to feel more important, because I mean, like, honestly, I loved Ratar in this movie. He was a good pupper, and they did a really good job of taking manga Ratar and putting him in this live action space. But, like, he's not important, and you only have, because the movie could have been significantly shorter if you had just rearranged it to be about Sugimoto's character arc, and that would have made for a better movie.
Jay, would you watch the sequel
No.
of it? Okay.
Well, I'll caveat that I would only watch the sequel if they somehow were able to work out pacing of the plot so that it actually, like,
If it was more of a movie than an ad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like my tolerance for this was much higher because I had an idea of what they were trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunately basically our take on this movie. Was it's not a movie.
Yeah.
I think the only way I would watch a sequel is if they really just focused in on one of the little vignette adventures. Like, take the Bates Motel section and make that
like a nice
movie.
horror movie out of that.
Yeah, or the Beast of Gavaudan, Three Bears at the American Ranch. That'd be a great, like, standalone movie.
Yeah.
Like, make it basically almost like, not have it be like a series, but have it be like an anthology movie with a sort of B plot,
about the gold.
But that requires creativity, Jacob.
Yeah,
clearly.
I know. Again,
And creativity doesn't get us the iconic scenes.
and it doesn't make us money. As for me watching a sequel, what I'll say is I would definitely, because, like, again, much as we've been complaining about it, because honestly that's the most interesting stuff to talk about, it was actually fun to watch. Like, I did enjoy it. I would watch one sequel. If they made it more of a movie, I'd watch more. I don't think it will, so it would probably be a matter of me confirming that any number of these are just going to be more ads for the manga, and at that point I would probably quit at Gold Dirt, because that's about my tolerance level.
I absolutely know they wouldn't do this, but if they did the Samurai Guys, like, assault on that town as a movie, like, just a solid Western, they're not going to do that because the main characters aren't in that arc, but...
Yeah. That would be a cool Western. Yeah, no, the more I think about it, the more I think that Golden Kamuy could actually make for a good anthology movie series.
No, or turn it into, like, one of those anthology TV shows.
Honestly,
This
it
would work
better
way
as a
better
TV show.
as, like, a series of hour-long TV episodes.
Yeah, live-action Golden Kamuy TV show I think would be really good, because quite frankly, they did a good job of adapting a lot of the scenes. Like, there was a lot of...
Just put more meat on those bones in your Golden.
Yeah, Golden Kamuy.
Shut up.
I genuinely wonder if it would have been cheaper just to train a white husky.
Oh, but then you'd have a husky. That makes me happy.
But I'm just saying, like, you just need it to, like, jump and be dog. It's going to be way smaller than it needs to be, but, like, you're already not having it in the movie. So it's like, I don't know. I'm done trying to fix this. This wasn't a movie. I'm not going to write a movie. Whoever was the script writer for this was non-existent.
Not even the script writer. I would say whoever had final say over editing, because you could switch that around. You could have switched that Sugimoto scene around to be earlier.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you everybody once again for tuning into the OverMangaCast. As always, you can find us on all your social medias, where we are at OverMangaCast.
You can also find us on YouTube, where you can like, comment, and subscribe. The episodes go up there on a 2-week delay, so if you want to catch up on our up-to-date stuff, you can head over to overmangacast.com, where you can, we also have a comment section there. Tell us more live-action movies that we can torture ourselves with. Maybe there'll be some good ones. You would send us good stuff, right? Please?
We also appreciate reviews in any and all forms, so reach out, rate us 5 stars, because God forbid we deserve it after the garbage nonsense we do. Because, as always, this is an entire month for you, but one painful weekend for us. Speaking of which, Sam, what are we watching for them next week?
We're going to be watching Parasite, so tune in for that, and we'll see you all next Thursday. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.